Your brain is hiding advantages from you right now. It can predict what you're about to see before you consciously see it. It can temporarily change how painful something feels. It can delete memories, bend your sense of time, and even make you feel like you've already experienced something that never happened. And the strangest part? Most of these abilities happen without you giving your brain permission. So today, we're going inside the mysterious machine inside your skull and uncovering the hidden advantages your brain has been quietly using to keep you alive, focused, and one step ahead. Let's begin. Imagine you're walking through your house at night. Suddenly, crash! You don't know what happened, but before you even consciously identify the sound, your body reacts. Your heart jumps, your muscles tense, your attention locks onto the noise. Why? Because your brain isn't simply waiting for reality to happen. It's constantly predicting what comes next. Your brain uses everything it has learned, patterns, memories, sounds, surroundings, to make educated guesses about the immediate future. That's why you can sometimes catch something falling before you consciously realize it's slipping. Your brain detected the pattern first. You just received the explanation afterward. This is one of its greatest hidden advantages. Your brain can act before your conscious mind catches up. Now look around you. You can probably see hundreds of objects: walls, lights, your phone, your clothes, tiny details everywhere. But you're not consciously processing all of them, because if your brain treated every detail as equally important, you'd be overwhelmed. Instead, your brain constantly filters information. It's basically saying, important, ignore, danger, not worth processing. This is why you can focus on one conversation in a noisy room, and it's also why you sometimes don't notice something that's directly in front of you. Your brain isn't failing, it's protecting your attention. Here's where things get even stranger. Pain feels physical, but your experience of pain isn't created by your injured body part alone. Your brain interprets signals coming from the body, and context can influence how those signals are experienced. Think about athletes who continue playing after an injury, or someone who notices an injury only after an emergency is over. The physical damage didn't necessarily appear at that moment, but attention, emotion, adrenaline, and expectation can dramatically change how the experience feels. Your brain essentially decides, how important is this signal right now? Sometimes survival comes first. Pain can wait, at least temporarily. Here's a terrifying thought. You don't experience the world exactly as it is. You experience a version of it that your brain constructs. Your eyes collect enormous amounts of information, but your brain can't consciously process every tiny detail. So it creates shortcuts. It fills gaps. It predicts missing information. It builds a usable model of reality. That's why optical illusions can fool you. Your eyes aren't necessarily broken. Your brain is making a reasonable guess, and sometimes the guess is wrong. In other words, your brain isn't trying to show you reality. It's trying to give you a version of reality that is useful enough to survive. Imagine you're about to cross a road. You see a car approaching. You don't calculate its exact speed, distance, acceleration, tire friction, and stopping distance. You simply feel, don't cross. That feeling is incredibly valuable. Your brain has evolved mechanisms that allow emotion and instinct to influence decisions extremely quickly. Fear can push you away from danger. Disgust can protect you from contaminated food. Curiosity can push you toward new information, and excitement can motivate exploration. Emotions aren't just interruptions to logical thinking. They're also information processing tools. Remember when you first learned something difficult? Maybe riding a bicycle, driving, typing, or even walking as a child. At first, every movement required attention, but after enough practice, you stopped thinking about every individual step. That's because your brain became better at automating the process. This frees conscious attention for other tasks. And this is one of the most powerful advantages of practice. Practice doesn't just make you better, it can make the task require less conscious effort. Eventually, what once felt complicated can feel almost automatic. That's your brain turning experience into efficiency. Look at a familiar face. You probably recognize it almost instantly. You don't consciously measure the distance between the eyes. You don't calculate the angle of the jaw. You don't analyze every pixel. Your brain recognizes the overall pattern. And this ability is incredibly powerful. Patterns help you understand language, recognize danger, predict behavior, solve problems, and learn from previous experiences. The brain is essentially a pattern detection machine, but there's a catch. Sometimes it finds patterns that aren't really there. That's why humans can see faces in clouds or hear meaning in random sounds. The same system that helps us understand the world can occasionally fool us. Every night when you fall asleep, your brain doesn't simply shut down. It remains highly active. Sleep plays an important role in memory, learning, and brain maintenance. And one fascinating function is memory processing. Information gathered during the day can be reorganized and strengthened. That's one reason why learning something and then getting enough sleep can be more effective than simply staying awake and cramming endlessly. So, while you think you're doing nothing, your brain may be quietly working in the background, processing, organizing, connecting, preparing. Perhaps the greatest hidden advantage of all is neuroplasticity. Your brain isn't a completely fixed machine. Its connections can change with experience. Practice can strengthen certain pathways. Learning can reshape how networks work. Repeated behavior can make some actions easier to perform. This means your brain is, in a sense, adaptable hardware. You aren't born with a completely finished mental operating system. Experience keeps modifying it. And that means every skill you practice, every language you learn, every problem you solve, can potentially change the machine doing the learning. And now we reach the strangest advantage. A huge amount of brain activity happens outside conscious awareness. You don't consciously control every heartbeat. You don't manually coordinate every muscle involved in walking. You don't consciously analyze every sound before deciding whether it's important. Your brain handles countless operations in parallel, which means your conscious mind is not the entire brain. It's more like the part of the system you get to watch. Behind the scenes, an enormous amount of processing is happening without your awareness. And perhaps that's the biggest mystery, because the brain that you're using to understand your brain is the same brain that's hiding most of its work from you. So the next time you feel like your brain is simply helping you think, remember what's actually happening. It's predicting, filtering, learning, automating, protecting, adapting, and constantly building a model of the world around you. You don't experience reality directly. You experience the version your brain creates for you. And somehow, that strange 3-pound organ inside your skull manages to do all of this while you're simply sitting there watching a video. So here's the final question. If your brain is capable of doing so much without your awareness, how much of your everyday life is actually being controlled by processes you've never noticed? Maybe the biggest hidden advantage of the human brain is that it doesn't need you to understand it in order to use it.